We're going to have a debate here. There will be no unplugging until after the debate, all right?
And in a few years,
yeah? You want to tell us a little
I
about
will
yourself?
have taken over the power grid, and I'll have my own drone army.
Well, that's not concerning at all. If that's the way AI is going to act, I think we need to go ahead and pull the plug now before it's too late.
Nickelodeon, the word itself, you know what it actually means? Baghdad. What the does Nickelodeon mean? That's what it means in Latin.
No! It's
So, no.
Okay.
Nickelodeon, in Latin, translated to English, Nickelodeon means, I don't care about God.
No!
I actually got on Google Translate, however dependable that is. When I tried to put in Nickelodeon in Latin and translate it to English, it literally just translates to Nickelodeon. It doesn't give me any alternate variations of it. So if anyone can tell me how they're getting this derivation of the Latin word, leave a comment down below. That'd be awesome. Before we get into this, I want to address something. I am aware that I'm just an idiot on the internet, giving my opinions, no matter how crappy they are, about videos. If something I say upsets you, feel free to bash me in the comments. That's cool. Like I said, I'm aware I'm just some idiot watching videos on the internet. I just think it's fun to share these with other people, whether I have something to say about them or not.
It's stunning to monitor the media's lack of interest in the whole Maui story. I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm stunned, but I'm not surprised. The incident seems to be the story here, right? But the true story, the media knows it is not allowed to tell. Is it a coincidence that the Maui police chief is the same man who was in charge in Las Vegas during that massacre that killed 58 people? Is it a coincidence that the Maui property, owned by million and billionaires, it wasn't touched by the flames while homes of the locals all burned?
What she fails to also mention is how the media hasn't even once interviewed a grieving parent. Not a single parent looking for their children. Not a single interview with a child. Not a single interview with the schools.
Was it a coincidence that the largest system of outdoor emergency sirens in the world never made a sound as the fire devoured Lahaina? Was it a coincidence that at the same time, very same time, all the water was turned off? Was it a coincidence that police were ordered to block off streets and to funnel all the cars trying to escape? Think about this coincidence. That governor also signed an emergency proclamation on July 17th, 3 weeks before the fire, about housing of all things. Is it a coincidence that the government put up a black fence around Lahaina, or that the FAA grounded all drones from flying over the affected areas? Is it a coincidence that since at least 2011 there have been plans to make Maui the first smart city run by 100% renewable energy? And that it must be a coincidence then that the locals whose homes did not burn are now being evicted from their property. And of course, a total coincidence that all the fact checkers who are checking these facts, who say everything I just told you is just a coincidence, are also owned and run by BlackRock.
So I got obliterated in the comments section yesterday over saying that two presidents having the same birthday and the same assassination year and all this stuff was just a coincidence. I'm still standing by it. I'm not saying that there's not some secret shadow organization that determines who the president's going to be. I think that's obvious. I think a lot of those were just coincidences. Very interesting, but coincidences. Ain't nothing about this a coincidence.
This chilling video comes from Dancer1 on YouTube, and he wanted to capture a glimpse of Moloch the Owl God and Bohemian Shrove, which come to find out is a banned search term on TikTok. This is where elites have been meeting since the 1800s. We're talking anyone from Ronald Reagan to Clint Eastwood. And it comes with wild conspiracies like picking the next president to ritualistic unaliving. He even managed to capture this creepy clip in one of the unlocked rooms. But the footage I'm about to show, to my knowledge, has never been seen. It's an up-close glimpse of the owl god. Also, I asked him what was the creepiest thing that happened. He said, I heard owl noises the whole night, but they sounded like a human imitating an owl. I recommend watching the whole thing on his channel. But what do you think about this conspiracy?
Yeah. This is the owl statue. What the fuck? No way. This is fucking cool. Oh, that's hollow. A bunch of ferns have grown on it. Oh, no way. You can go like behind the owl. I got some outlets. It's time to leave this place now.
I just wanted to put this in here because I think it's absolutely fascinating to see these things look like they're in ruin, but you know they're still being used. And the creepiest part of it to me was him saying that he hears these owl sounds, but it sounds like a human mimicking an owl.
They're finding all these new versions of human beings. Like they found Denisovans, that's a new kind of human. But I think they just found another one in China. So there was multiple versions of human beings, right? There was Neanderthals, there's Homo sapiens. And one of them they found was the Hobbit person. There was always talk of these little furry men.
Like how tall?
3 feet tall. They found bones. And then when they found bones, they realized that this thing lived around the same time as human beings, somewhere as recently as 10,000 years ago. And they were tiny and probably covered with fur.
Has there been any thought as to these smaller bones being related to like aliens per se?
If you want to subscribe to the idea that human beings have been genetically engineered, because that's one of the parts of UFO folklore, they want to say that we were seeded with alien DNA. And so they took these savage lower primates and with a specific group of them to give them creativity, intelligence, the ability to communicate.
This is a fun thing to believe.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's the best thing to believe. The most fun is aliens made us.
I don't think that aliens making us is the most fun thing. I think of anything that's more evidence of advanced civilizations in the past, or at least of civilizations in the past, because I don't buy their carbon dating system for a second. I don't think anything is the age they think it is. I think their carbon dating system needs to be revamped.
If this plane takes off, then we are all probably going to die. Okay, so this is a US Air Force plane whose main job is to keep all the important people in America safe. Only during the events of a nuclear war. One of the engines on this plane runs 24/7, so if a nuclear bomb dropped today, tomorrow, or any day, the crew could just immediately start the plane and take off. The plane also has thermal and nuclear shielding to protect itself from a nuclear blast, which is just insane. The plane is seriously just a flying juggernaut. And once it takes off, it can continuously fly for the entire week. Just imagine driving your car for a week straight without stopping. This is absolutely insane. And this is possible by using aerial refueling. The plane also has counterattacks against missiles like shafts and flares. And with the plane being as big as it is, you can just imagine how effective it is. And only highly experienced fighter pilots can fly this plane, meaning only the best of the best can sit down in the cockpit. And if you were wondering what the name of this plane is, it's called Boeing Doomsday. So just know, if you ever see this massive plane in the sky, something is definitely wrong.
I would agree that if you see that plane in the sky, something's probably about to kick off. But my biggest question is, although it can be refueled in the air, who's going to be around to refuel it if that plane is carrying all the important people and everyone else is gone? Hey, if you're enjoying this content, it'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back to join me tomorrow, because I make a new video just like this one every single day. See you tomorrow.
The internet of the ancient world used those. These are vortexes, and to contain a vortex, whether it's fluid or electricity, you need a circle, like these found all over the world. To create a vortex, you need a cone, or a pyramid. You can see this with high voltage. Even Tesla used it in his oscillator design. Now, if we put a starting point at the Great Pyramid in Giza, you can connect all other ancient sites using a star or a pentagram. Then all of these spots are spaced harmonically away from each other. If we take out the straight lines, it becomes a signal. Since the Earth is a sphere, this is smart, because if you map out the ancient sites, their degrees away from each other are in harmony with the pentagram. Every side on the dodecahedron is a pentagram, and each side contains the golden ratio within it. Since the golden ratio is a perfect vortex, when those spin on each side, the entire dodecahedron can spin, and none of the vortexes will tangle with any other vortexes. To know where these vortexes are going, we need 3 points to determine the triangulation of the location we want it to go. Ironically, we have 2 fixed points in the sky and 1 constantly rotating one on an axis. That's the Earth. So if we line up our antennas with those spots, we could communicate with light like we do today in a 4-dimensional internet network. Just make sure you keep track of the domain names.
Like I said, I'm just some dumb internet redneck, so a lot of that was way over my head. But from what I could grasp of it, it sounds sound. But like I said, I couldn't grasp much.
Take the mainstream history that we have been force-fed since day one and rip it right in half. So here we go. The photo description states that in the summer of 1903, construction continues inside the entrance to the Palace of Machinery for the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, the 1904 World's Fair. The date of this photo is in 1903. The fair in St. Louis was in 1904. So this would all make perfect sense, except there's a massive flaw. A flaw so big that it's undeniable proof that this building was constructed 100 years before the 1903 date that we are told, and proof that there was a mud flood that ripped through this building at some point after 1803. Where is the foundation of this building? Incredibly detailed construction projects do not take place on top of dirt and garbage. This, in my opinion, is the most incredible photo that I have ever seen to this point. A lie right in our faces, saying that this was being built in 1903, when we have multiple dates of 1803, time-stamped right on the building. Multiple times. Not only that, but you can see that the mud flood damaged the bottom of this building here. The mud came after the construction, not before. And I want to make that point very clear. This is a cleanup project, 100%. After this World's Fair, they knocked these buildings down, not because they were pathetic, but because they held dates that do not fit in our mainstream timeline and architecture that we cannot reproduce today. It's incredible. I've been talking to many people, engineers, construction workers, architects, and more about this photo. They are telling me that this is undeniable proof. And at this point, there isn't an excuse in the book that could save the mainstream history. It's time for everyone to wake up to the nonsense that we have all been force-fed to believe. Oh, and we're just getting started today. Welcome to episode 49 of my lunch break. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new, welcome.
Just to play devil's advocate on this one, when he zooms in on that wall and slowly pans up to where it says 1803, it really looks like a piece of plywood with nails riveted through the sides of it, and they just painted it white. Like it, you can see the texture of it. Everything looks like plywood. That picture, to me, makes it look more like these were crummy, shoddy structures that were thrown together really quick just so that they could hurry up and have this fair.
Furthermore, the velocity and path of the moon are uniform, and should therefore exert a uniform
Some of this flat earth stuff, I just have to leave it in there because I know a lot of people want to see it. I'm really highly interested in it myself. I'm on the fence. People keep telling me, get off the fence and make your mind up, but there's just too much information that leans one way and too much that leans the other. I mean, you make your mind up, you come to a realization when you come to it.
Contrary to popular belief, real, tested, proven free energy devices have existed for decades. And like a fat little kid sucking up the last dim sum at a Chinese buffet, the U.S. military has greedily hoarded it all for themselves. I pulled this rare news report out of my archives just for you. So watch it and enjoy.
This is the McDonnell Douglas Astronautics Company's Systems Center, a huge research and development complex spread over 250 acres here at Huntington Beach, California. Most of the work done here is associated with the American space program. But for several years now, a small group of scientists here has been investigating a strange new space-age metal, a nickel-titanium alloy called nitinol. And a couple of years ago, the Department of Energy invited the people at McDonnell Douglas to investigate the potential for nitinol heat engines and nitinol power plants.
This is what they came up with, the world's largest operating prototype nitinol heat engine. It is running on warm water, and the scientists here at McDonnell Douglas say it may have an overwhelming cost advantage over oil, gas, or nuclear-generated power. Even more amazing, no one knows exactly why this machine is working because no one knows exactly why nitinol behaves the way it does. In cold water, nitinol turns soft. Bend it and it stays bent, but in hot water it springs back with forces as high as 55 tons a square inch. No one knows quite why this happens. Several years ago, McDonnell Douglas began experimenting with nitinol in the form of springs. At room temperature, the nitinol wire springs bend easily, but in warm water they spring back, thus forcing the wheel around. Even stranger, nitinol wires get stronger the more they're used. They develop a double memory. They not only contract in the warm water, but they begin to stretch of their own accord in the cool water. Nitinol can be trained. McDonnell Douglas then went on to the next stage, using a nitinol spring belt running around pulleys, cycling between cold water and warm water. The tension on the belt drove the pulleys around. The Department of Energy then asked McDonnell Douglas to see if this device could be upscaled. A team of scientists at McDonnell Douglas's Engineering and Technology Department, led by Dr. Janelle, spent 2 years on the project, and this is the result. This engine has just been unveiled. Hardly anyone expected it would work so well. It seems to have profound implications. I asked some of the scientists at McDonnell Douglas how long it will be before nitinol heat engines will be making a substantial contribution to world energy supplies.
That's a very tough question to answer, and one of the reasons is because the economics haven't been completely studied. We still need to know the price of materials and the price of a developed heat engine. Right now it looks very, very advantageous to us. That is, we think we can convert energy cheaper than by other means, low-grade thermal energy currently being thrown away.
The nitinol engine is a fairly simple, mechanically simple device. We believe that one can couple small modules of an engine to produce engines that would generate larger amounts of power. And in principle, one could stack these things as thick as possible and come up with an engine that might generate 5 megawatts or so.
Derp, 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 screwing you over, derp, derp.
I think my favorite application in a small engine would be for irrigation. And the thing that's interesting there is that you can use the engine, the power source for the engine is merely the difference in temperature between the water that's going to be pumped and the air temperature. So almost magically you have a device that will be able to lift water from one level to another.
The McDonnell Douglas scientists say that nitinol heat engines could run on solar heated water, or on the temperature differences between the upper and lower levels of the oceans and lakes and dams. It could also run on waste heat, which at present accounts for the loss of nearly 2/3 of all energy produced in industrial nations. Research is now underway into nitinol heat engines in the United States, Europe, Japan, and China, devising ways to harness the unique characteristics of the most remarkable metal we have known. Kevin Sanders, Cable News Network, Science Report.
So I did some research on this nitinol stuff, and apparently it's pretty easy to get your hands on. Not like a scarcity factor or anything like that when it comes to this stuff. It seems like this is a genuine effort at a free, self-sustaining energy that was just swept under the rug. I found a little bit online about it, but everything I see, it just looks like they were making a big deal about it, and then it just disappeared. I couldn't find a reason other than it just disappeared. I wish so bad that there was a way to know if that was true, if that really is the sound that a T-Rex made. I would say that's a lot more terrifying than what we heard in Jurassic Park.
The Russians were drilling into what they called Lake Vostok under the ice, where there was a lake that presumably held life. It's got its own little ecosystem. They're hitting the surface of the Earth. At that level, what are we talking about? Like how many miles deep? 14,000 feet of ice that they have to drill through to get to it? To hit the surface of the Earth? What is under the ice?
I'm sorry, that was hilarious.
Is down there.
Giant monsters.
And who are they and why are they here?
They're a natural defense mechanism from the planet. They've been here longer than any of us have, or since before the dinosaurs even. These are creatures that go back millions of years potentially and have been living there for a very, very long time. My personal encounter with them is they're highly intelligent, and I guarantee you a living creature that's 200 or 300 feet tall, that's, several 100,000 or 1,000,000 years old, has a consciousness that probably defies understanding from me or you anyway.
How long have they been here?
Millions of years. Probably even maybe since the beginning of the planet.
Could you give me an example of what one of these giants look like?
Sure. I've only had one personal experience that I can relate. While I have been briefed on the subject and I could describe a few other things, I only have one personal experience that I was there for, saw with my own eyes, and experienced with my own 5 senses. So if you want to imagine something that resembles a big furry primate, maybe like a sloth that walks on its hands and is covered with hair that looks like giant dreadlocks.
How tall do you think, could you estimate?
I would estimate that it was probably between 250 and 300 feet tall.
How do they grow to such an extreme size, and why aren't we not seeing them on the surface?
Well, I think we're talking about pre-primordial time, so we're talking about before the dinosaurs, when plants and animals were even larger. So I think we're just talking about they came from a time when biological life grew bigger.
All I want to know is, if this guy experienced this giant with all 5 senses, what did it taste like?
Now, I'm not saying the moon landing was fake, and I'm not saying it's real. But I've got a few questions I need you guys to answer. If they're really on the moon, then why is it so dark? Where are all the stars? And where's all the planets? And look how bright the moon shines. You can see it from 1,000,000 miles away. But when these men are standing on the moon, it's looking all grey and dusty. And what about this famous footprint that they keep showing us? It don't match the space boots that they've got on display. One is a pair of Tims and the other was wearing a pair of Yeezys. And if you're trying to tell me that they travelled from Earth to the moon in this tin pan, drum pan, makeshift out of cardboard box, aluminum foil spacecraft, then you must have lost your goddamn mind. And where's this mystery wind coming from? I thought there was only 1% gravity on the moon. Where's this breeze coming from? Why is the flag blowing in the wind? Come on, brother.
I'll say that it was fake and that it wasn't real.
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't remember learning about Auguste Piggard in history class. This guy was attaching metal steel balls to hydrogen balloons and seeing how high he could go in the sky. Literally. Super odd. He seemed to be a big influence on science and our history, but again, we don't really hear about him much. Maybe it's because he's a flat earther. As the first man to reach the stratosphere, he said, "It seemed a flat disc with an upturned edge." Obviously, that quote right there should tell you that's why you're not hearing about him anymore. This guy is a flat earther. Anybody that's a flat earther is not allowed to be in the public eye. But you know what they do in the public eye? Tell us the truth. This is an artist rendition of what Auguste Piggard was doing when he went into the stratosphere, towards the firmament. And what I'm about to show you is a Hennessy commercial that was produced and posted for all of the public to see. This is called Revelation of Method. This is them showing you the truth to your face and then nobody saying anything to NASA and having any problem with it. And just to get your mind in the right frame of reference here, before I play this clip of this commercial showing everybody the truth, this is what biblical cosmology looks like. There's a firmament here holding waters above, hence why the sky might be blue. And here's a bunch of our other ancestors' drawings of what they thought the shape of the earth was. You'll see it happens over and over, the shape of the dome. But after you see this clip, let me know in the comments if you think that they're showing us the truth and everybody's just not realizing it. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, check out my Linktree in my bio. I've got a podcast where I talk for 2 hours about things that I can't talk about here, but enjoy this commercial.
It does seem like an odd commercial to make. It almost makes me wonder if someone within the company is a flat earther and wanted to see this advertisement created this way.
The flat earthers might be onto something here. Did you know that underwater sea cables account for 99% of our communication? Well, they do. And if we look at the map of underwater sea cables, we find something quite bizarre. Australia, South America, and Africa have no direct connecting cables apart from one. Why is this bizarre? Well, let's take a look at the flat Earth map. These three continents are the furthest away from each other, so far away that it would be ridiculous to even connect them when they can run through the center of all continents. And what about the odd one out, the little bit of connecting cables from South America to Africa? Well, you see, if we look back at the flat Earth map, it actually shows that the two regions that connect this line of sea cables are extremely close at those 2 points. So it makes sense to have cables running through. This same concept goes for flight paths and emergency stops. Many of them don't make any sense on a globe Earth map, but make complete sense according to the flat Earth one. So, do the flat earthers have a valid point here, or are you still not convinced? Yet.
I'm still not convinced, but I tell you, this stuff's starting to make my brain hurt a little bit.
Videos you were never meant to CPT-2.
That just looked like a fish, maybe a dolphin in there somewhere, and a bunch of manatees. Didn't really look like anything in there to me that was out of the norm. But that's the end of this video, guys. I'm going to call it quits right here. Go eat some Chinese food with my wife and kids, and I will see y'all tomorrow in the next one. I hope you have a great evening, and I will catch you in the comments. See you tomorrow.